Hi, I'm Sasan Godarzi. I'm the Executive Vice President at Intuit with our Small Business and Self-Employed Group. You are watching Behind the Brand with Brian Elliott.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Hello Alfred. Alfred marries powerful technology with excellent service to keep your home running smoothly. If you're tired of spending your weekends cleaning, doing laundry, and grocery shopping, you need to try this on-demand service. Dedicated, trusted Alfred home managers coordinate and take care of time-consuming tasks and chores so you can focus on what you love. Visit helloalfred.com/behind the brand. And now let's get into our episode. Hey, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Sasan, thanks for having us here at Intuit headquarters. This is amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome here. It's a great campus.
I usually ask my guests, how'd you get this job?
I've been with the company for 14 years. I've had the opportunity to play a role in many parts of the company, and a very good friend of mine and I switched roles. I was running TurboTax and he was in this role, so we swapped, and it's been a fun 18 months.
The latest and greatest I see from you guys are supporting small business owners.
You know, I'll start with the very basic things that we do that gives us a lot of energy and we're proud of. One, you know, small businesses typically don't get paid for the work that they do for 60 plus days. And so one of the things we put in place at the company is if you're a small business, if you're a contractor, if you're self-employed, we pay you, net 30 days or earlier. And so we pay them probably faster than any of our other larger vendors because we believe that it's most important that they get the money that they deserve. The second is, when we cater food, when we have meetings, we try to use small businesses to actually cater the food, cater the coffee. And in fact, our latest Cookbooks Back in You campaign, actually, the folks that are in the campaign are all self-employed and small businesses. The director that shot it is self-employed. The people that catered the food when we were doing the shoots were all small businesses and self-employed. So we try to live our life, not just building products to serve those that work for themselves, but actually treat them the way we want everyone to treat them, which is helping them get paid faster, use their products and services, and it really inspires us.
So, how do you guys know what small businesses need? Are you doing some sort of, focus groups or testing? How do you know exactly what kinds of products and services to create for small business?
Well, we've been in this space for 20, 30 years, right? And there's some common needs that they have that don't change, and it's global. They have needs like I need to find a customer. They need to be able to sell their products. They need to be able to get paid. They need to be able to find workers. They need to be able to find employees. They need to be able to keep them. So the needs are actually the same globally. What we try to do is three things simultaneously that helps us with the innovation that matters most. One is very customer-centric. So we will what we call follow me home or follow me to the office, where we observe those that work for themselves to try to understand what their biggest needs are. We also have channels where we hear directly from the voice of the customer. So that's very customer-centric. The other is technology-centric, where we try to solve the most important problems applying technology to solve problems that no human could ever solve, which right now is really centered around applying AI and machine learning.
Break that down a little bit. What does that actually mean? I mean, I understand AI, but unpack it.
Sure. Well, let me hit on the third element, and then I'll come back to your question. So there's the customer element, there's the technology element, and then we're in a cloud business, so we watch the data and watch the customer behaviors to see where they're getting stuck in the experience, what's not working for them, are they completing their task? And those three things allows us to think about the next big, huge wave of innovation. To your question of AI, the best way to describe AI is in the past when you coded software, in essence, you coded it in such a way that it did a calculation. AI is really about coding the software in such a way that it's like the human brain, that it actually learns. So the more, when you're a kid, right, you have to hold the kid from jumping into the pool, and that's why you put a fence around in the pool. As you grow up and you learn not to touch things that are hot, you learn if you can't swim, don't jump in the water. And that is what AI is. It's really software that's like the human brain, and it learns. And the more
it's machine learning.
It's machine learning. So the more it's used, the more it learns, and the more people use it, the smarter that it gets, and then it does the work for you. And so that is a huge area of focus for us, which is do things in a way that does the work for our customers and gives them insight, so they don't have to do accounting, they don't have to do taxes.
What do you think are some of the most common business mistakes that you see these small business owners making?
Let me put to the side if you just have a bad idea and you haven't done the research to actually understand, is this business that I'm opening, is it going to solve a huge problem? Let me put that to the side. The most common is, folks get into business for themselves because they have passion around an idea, but they don't actually know how to run a business, and so they run out of money. Their cash flow is a huge issue. So they'll do work, but they won't invoice for the work. They won't think about how to set terms to get paid. They won't know when they're going to run out of money to make payroll if they have workers or employees, and they, in essence, hit a wall on cash, and they have to ultimately shut down. That is the largest mistake that small businesses make, is that it's very hard for them to manage money in and money out. They're so focused on their business, the idea, their passion, and don't think about what's the cash flow required. And that's actually where we try to focus on helping most, because we believe we can't really help you with, if you got a bad idea, you got a bad idea. But what we can help you with is increase your rate of success to manage your money.
That's a really good point. I mean, a lot of people have talked about this ongoing problem of, working in your business versus working on your business. So what do you think are some of the key success factors? I mean, let's zoom out a little bit and talk about maybe personality traits. What are you guys observing as sort of these key components to success? I mean, obviously, to have a great process, it sounds like you guys are helping with the process, but in your experience working with business owners, what are some of these key traits you think required to be successful? And maybe even speak to your own experience, coming up the ranks. I mean, you didn't get here by accident, right? You probably worked your way up from the bottom, and talk about that a little bit.
I would say it's a couple of things. First and foremost, it actually starts with, do you have a big idea? And the big idea could be, if you want to open a coffee shop, have you done enough work to figure out where's the best place to open that coffee shop? What's really going to differentiate me? Like, why are you going to come to my coffee shop versus the Starbucks next door? So one trait of folks that are successful is actually just thinking through what is going to be different about my idea and my service that will attract customers. The second is just attitude and hard work. Nothing in life comes easy. And so it's just having perseverance to, you're going to run into bumps. Nothing is ever easy. And so just persevering and working through the challenges and the issues. And then the third is recognizing that you don't have all the answers and asking for help. It's relying on an ecosystem of folks that can help you with, how do you manage your money in and money out? How do you deliver great customer service? How do you differentiate yourself? We are actually trying to do far more than building a product. What we are in essence trying to do is not only build a product that puts more money in your pocket and eliminates work, but also bring the ecosystem of other small businesses, other self-employed, other consumers to help you. The notion of small businesses and self-employed drive more than 50% of the global economy. They're responsible for more than 60% of the hiring around the world, but they are the loneliest group. And so what we are...
Testify.
You know what it's like, right? You're living it. Your job is much harder than mine. What we're trying to do is build far more than a product, but to bring the insights of the millions of folks that use our product to help you make a better decision on which customers to pursue, which worker to hire, which one's going to be more reliable, when you should go potentially get a loan, actually giving you a loan because we know a lot about your payment history. So that what we're trying to do is really tip the world in the favor of the small businesses by bringing the ecosystem of insights and data to every person that works for themselves.
Let's go back and let's get a little bit personal again. I know a little bit of your backstory. You shared it with me off camera before. Your parents immigrated to this country, brought you here. Can you talk a little bit about the immigrant spirit, that spirit of being hungry and just hustling and making something out of nothing?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that's an important lesson, for a lot of people who watch this are entrepreneurs. And, maybe they're born here in different circumstances. But I think that's important to hear because I think there's a lot to learn from that point of view.
Well, I remember it like it was yesterday when I was 9 years old and really wanted to come to America. And in fact, I was, of course, as you know, born in Iran, and everybody wants to come to America because they believe that their dreams can be achieved here. And I remember from that day just my hunger to want to come here and to learn and see what's possible. And I think my experience of coming to the U.S., it was at a time where Iran took the hostages, and it was
80s.
And that's right. It was 78 actually when I came here, and then yes, it was in the 80s when they took the hostages. It was a very tough childhood, but that actually shaped who I am today, which is just fighting for every inch, never giving up, and just persevering. And I've just learned through. As long as you love what you do and you care and you have the attitude and the perseverance to stick it out, great things that can happen. And that's just been, that has driven my hunger every single day. And
what did your parents do when they came? Did they open a business?
Yeah, so I have two older brothers, so they were already in the U.S. Studying. And they decided to send me here at the age of 9. I was lucky because we came here before the revolution and the hostages happened. And my father passed away when I was 10. And so I was really raised here by my mom and my older brother, and we lost everything. So my brother, right when he graduated, the job market was terrible. And so he couldn't find the job, so he started his own business. And so my mom was mostly, making sure I stay out of trouble. And my older brother started a import-export business of food from the Middle East. And I remember those days where we would sit around the dinner table and we would talk about the fact that he couldn't find customers, cash flow was terrible, and what would we do next? Would we go back to Iran? And today he has a very large import-export food business. But it was in essence, I come from a family that worked for themselves.
And what did you want to be when you grew up as a kid? What were you thinking about?
I had no idea. I used to, on weekends, before this food import-export business took off, my brother would build houses and sell houses. So every weekend I was doing construction work, and I hated it. So one thing I knew I didn't want to do is, because it's hard, moving drywall and, building a wall with bricks, it was hard. And every weekend I did that and mowing lawns all weekend because there was multiple houses that we had that they put me to work. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but what I did do is I started multiple of my own businesses. When I was getting my engineering degree, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, so we founded a company, raised some money, didn't know what I was doing. We ended up selling it to try to get the investors' money back. But in my late teens and then early 20s, were just multiple businesses that I started until I started working for a corporation and realized, you know what, you can be an entrepreneur in a big company.
Yeah, there's a term for that called intrapreneur, right? Where
yes.
You have autonomy and you can do creative
That's
things.
Right.
I want to go back to you kind of what sounded like experimentation and figuring out your path, because I think a lot of, regardless of your age, but especially people who may be coming right out of high school and college are thinking about their passion. And sometimes finding your passion is the most difficult thing. What advice would you have to younger people who are trying to figure out what they're good at or what they're trying to do, what they want to do in the future?
I love your question, and the answer was actually in your question. It's actually following your heart and passion and recognizing that you're not going to find the answer right away, and being willing to just play around to see what you like, and for me, that was a struggle because I felt like I needed a straight path and I couldn't find it. And that was, I struggled with that a lot because I just felt like I'm losing time. I'm not successful because I don't have the straight arrow to what I should know, what I should do, and what I want to do. Yeah. But having now gone through it, what I have learned is you just got to follow your passion and heart, and actually know that you're going to end up doing a lot of different things till you find the thing that you really love and you can be successful at. So that would be my biggest advice. Is it was in the question that you asked? Is know your heart, know your passion, and life is not a straight arrow.
Yeah, and I'll just maybe add to that my 2 cents that sometimes when you don't know what you want or what you like or even what you're good at, I think, your example of just doing lots of things, you went into construction, it's sort of like a process of elimination sometimes. Right. Okay, I really hate that. Right. That's actually great to know, because then you've eliminated one category perhaps. Maybe you're not meant for manual labor, and other people are fantastic at it, but drywall is just not your thing.
That's why I hate manual labor today. Now I know why, because I had to do it so much.
Well, so I think it is really kind of a process of elimination sometimes.
It sure is.
The other thing is, how important is patience? Let's talk about that. I've experienced it at both ends of the spectrum. So when I was younger, I felt like you just sort of explained, like, when am I going to hit my stride, or when am I going to find that it? When am I going to arrive? And now that I'm older, I realize that there really is no there, right? It's just this process. And yet on this end of the spectrum, I'm thinking, I'm older, I'm more experienced. My ship should have come in by now. Yeah.
There's two sides of it. I think you have to be extremely patient and have conviction based on the direction that you've declared for yourself personally, or for the business that you run, the business that you run, right? And look how successful that you've become. So I think you have to have patience on here's where I want to go, and here's what's most important. I think you should be extremely impatient in terms of the experimentation and learning process to get there. So that's the way I would frame it. Patient on the long and conviction of what you want to do, but very impatient in terms of, am I doing things every single day that's helping me learn, that's helping my business learn? Am I experimenting fast enough to figure out how to get to the long-term thing? This applies to product innovation, it applies to running a business, it applies to running a company. So patient on the long, impatient on the learning and the experimentation.
What do you think gets people most stuck? I mean, we can talk about experimentation and go for it and do it, but the reality is sometimes we just get stuck.
Most people aren't clear about what success looks like and what they're trying to do, and then they flutter and are impatient because they actually don't know where they're trying to go.
Well, let's talk about that. How should we be defining success? I mean, most of us think, it's about dollars and cents. Okay, let's say it's a trade show. I rented space at a trade show. I bring my wares, my products. I write certain orders, and then I match it up, whatever I spent versus whatever I sold, and hopefully I come out in the black, and that's my ROI. Yeah. But how should we be measuring some of these other things that are more difficult to measure?
Yeah, I would say to you that from all the customers that I've spoken around the world, prosperity and success is very individual, and it's defined very differently by each individual. So it really depends. I don't think there's any right answer. Some define success by, I want to have enough freedom to be able to spend time with my kids, my ailing parents, my friends. Some define success as money, and some define success as just the legacy they leave behind in a company they run. So I think it's very individual. My counsel would be just to be clear what success looks like for you, what true north actually is, but not to dictate what it should be, because I think it's different for each person.
Well, that's fair. Let's frame it in your world then. Yeah. How do you define success? Because I also want to talk about the other end, which is failure, or a lot of people have said, if you're not winning, you're learning.
Yes.
Instead of failing. But how should we be embracing fear? And let's frame it in your job.
Yeah. Well, to your question, to make it personal, for me, first of all, success on the home front is to help my kids achieve their dreams, as long as they give it 150% effort and give it all they have. I want to make sure that my kids can achieve what's possible. So that's, for me, success on the home front. At work, for me, success is helping us create a franchise that is lasting and can change the lives of customers in ways that just no other franchise can do, and to create an environment where our teams feel like we're winning. I'm part of a winning team, a winning organization, and I can grow my career here. It's demanding here, but boy, if there was any team I want to be a part of, it's this one. Because I can do my best work.
So is there latitude to fail greatly here and fail fast, or like what's it like?
Yeah. Intent versus what we're working on. So intent is absolutely, we are working hard every day to create an environment where people have the latitude to experiment, learn, fail, so we can come up with the next big, huge innovation. That's our intent, and I think we're making tremendous progress. But in terms of where we are making progress. When you have an organization of 8,000 folks and 300-400 executives, it's not all areas are created equal. So there are areas where teams are probably more fearful to fail because they feel like that's a judgment on their performance, versus the faster you fail, the closer you get to the actual innovation. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, because I think it's easy for, especially if you're at the top, I give you permission to fail, but the reality is sometimes when you're at the bottom and you know that you have a performance review, or it's like, you're going to be judged by your peers, it's more easily said than done, right?
Much easier said than done.
So how do you get that message out, giving permission for people?
It's actually less about the message, but more how we react when there is a failure.
How are you react?
It's celebrating, for instance, if an experiment is run and the results are horrible compared to what they were hoping for, actually celebrating, well, what did you learn? And what are you going to do next? And actually celebrating the learning and what you're going to do next, and the fact that you failed fast. One of the things I always say to teams, I want you to, when you run an experiment, to either kill it or get crushed. Because somewhere in the middle means we didn't learn much.
It's binary then.
It's binary. And if we crushed it, just know why, so we can figure out then how do you do it at scale. And if you fail, learn why. And I think it's celebrating those moments, which I try to remind myself to ensure that I celebrate them, so that it creates an environment where teams feel like they have the latitude.
Yeah, they will be punished for it.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not perfect at it, but it's the intent.
Can you think of an epic failure or learning experience that you've had with one of your products, or?
Yeah. Well.
Something that really surprised you, like, oh, I had no idea.
There was one epic failure that I actually was personally behind, and it was in our TurboTax business. I ran it for 3 years, and my second year there, we made a decision to make a change. Most of TurboTax is in the cloud, right? Like 80-90% of our customers are in the cloud, but we still have 20% of our very important customers that use desktop. You get a CD and you put it in your laptop, or you download it, but it's in essence desktop. And we made a decision to, in essence, without boring you with the content, we made a decision that impacted those customers. We were doing it to deliver benefit. They viewed it as a price increase. And it had massive backlash. The learning that we had is, in the cloud, it's easy to test and experiment and learn, see what works, what doesn't work before you roll it out. In desktop, it's harder to do because it's a once-a-year cycle. Mm-hmm. And we did focus groups. And what we learned from the focus groups was, I understand why you're doing this, I don't like it, but I get it, it makes sense. Well, that is not how customers reacted. And it was so bad that we were getting a lot of backlash at the company level. Brad, our CEO, and myself were getting tons of customer communication on social and directly that, you all are not customer friendly. And we reversed the decision. And that was an epic failure and learning on my part. And the failure was, we pissed off a lot of really great customers. We lost a number of customers that we had to work very hard to get back. But the learning was on desktop, and it's not just desktop. The learning is don't listen to what customers say. You listen to what they do. In the cloud, it's easy to test. With desktop, it's not, and so you just don't ever go off of a focus group. It was the epic failure and the epic learning.